He was always too clever for his own good, was Cid. Saw the world for what it really was, while the rest of us were content to go along with the lie we were shown. And it can't have been easy, bearing that burden alone.
Undeniably sarcastic, an astute leader with a heart of gold, Cidolfus Telamon, or just Cid, is one of the most popular and important characters in all of Final Fantasy XVI. A man with a clear vision of how he wants the world to be. His courage, along with the help of protagonist Clive Rossfield and crew, helped manifest those dreams into reality in his legacy. Although our time spent with Cid may have been brief, with producer Naoki Yoshida, or Yoshi P, stating that he would like to see Cid get more screen time in a potential Final Fantasy XVI DLC, I thought now is as good a time as any to dive deep into who Cid is, and how his presence transformed the narrative of Final Fantasy XVI. The threads that connect Cid and Yoshi P are felt prominently throughout the length of the game, with Cid's desire to see his fantasy of a world reborn manifested in reality with the help of Clive and his allies. And Yoshi P? His leadership and cunning direction rebounded Final Fantasy XIV from a lifeless flop to, well, a realm reborn, creating one of the most enjoyed and popular MMORPGs of our time. And with him having produced Final Fantasy XVI, there is palpable excitement should we see a potential piece of DLC surrounding one of the title's most beloved characters. We'll return to Yoshi P's remarks about Cid's DLC later in this video. But first, it goes without saying that this video is full of spoilers, containing commentary and video of various parts of Final Fantasy XVI, both early and late game. So if you haven't finished Final Fantasy XVI yet, return when you're ready. For all those still here who are itching for more Cidolfus Telamon, well, you're in the right place.
3. What happened to 2? Ask 1.
Much of Cid's early life remains a mystery, but we do know that he is not from Valisthea, but instead seems to have come from the lands beyond the southern seas of the continent. Having arrived in Valisthea proper, walking the lands, he eventually ran into Benedicta Harmon and rescued her from a life of slavery. The two eventually became recruited by King Barnabas Tharmer of the Kingdom of Waloed, where Cid became the Lord Commander of its powerful army, with Benedicta being the head of covert operations. While it is unclear of exactly what caused Cid to have a falling out with Benedicta and Barnabas, we know Cid became increasingly distant from the leadership in Waloed. More specifically, the slave-like treatment of the bearers, and felt that his own goals were not congruent to that of the kingdom he served and his connections therein. It is why, during Clive's journey to Caer Norvent in the imperial province of Sambrec, that we see firsthand the disappointment in Cid when he realizes Benedicta, the woman he helped save from a life of slavery, has continued to serve under and establish relationships with those who perpetuate hostility and conflict. Seeing as his values did not align with that of current society within the twins, Cid fled Waloed in order to create a safe haven for bearers and other like-minded individuals keen on helping Cid bringing forth a new Valisthean order. This order would render all humans, bearers, and non-bearers alike equal treatment, in which one's worth wouldn't rest on their ability to cast magic freely, but on the quality of their character. It is interesting then that Cid is indeed a dominant, the dominant of Rama, the Sage of Thunder. Cid believes that dominants are used as weapons of mass destruction, only to further promote the strength of the nations in which they represent, and are often not treated as people, but outcasts. Only using his dominance powers when the situation demands it, Cid himself doesn't take much pride in his powers. There are but a few select times when we see Cid use his dominant powers, either to get the upper hand in a battle, like saving Clive from a group of bloodthirsty bandits from the Iron Kingdom, using his powers against Clive consumed by an out-of-control Ifrit, and in the inner sanctum of Drake's Head during the fall of the Mother Crystal, again protecting Clive. Not using his own powers to fight wars, Cid instead uses his powers to protect those who don't have the means of protecting themselves, and to quell the rage of a certain ally of his unable to control the newfound power raging inside of him.
Look, lad, you've had a hard life, and I don't see it getting much easier. You might not be able to save anyone else, but at the very least, you can save yourself. I'll try.
In a great show of strength does Cid's leadership shine, having served as the Lord Commander of Waloed's armed forces and in Cid's hideaway, where he secretly nurtures and builds a thriving sanctuary for bearers in search of a better life. Throughout his time in Valisthea, he has been seen to have tried doing the right thing, never bending a knee to those who promote ideas and concepts incongruent with Cid's vision. Helping Benedicta out of a life of slavery and leaving the Waloeder army are all things that Cid has done to help him better live up to the ideal life he had been secretly planning within his blight-ridden hideaway. A fantasy that was about to take shape in an event that would forever change Valisthea as we knew it. His innate ability of showing an impeccable judgment of character resulted in Cid working with equally enthusiastic and hardworking individuals, tenaciously striving to make the world a better place, in which bearers could finally make peace with their lives and the madness around them, providing a safe haven in which they may die a peaceful death. Knowing that Benedicta and Barnabas were too far gone to reason with is but one example of his excellent judge of character, but in also creating an intricate system of individuals at his own hideaway in which each facet of his operation was helmed by capable, hardworking purveyors of his cause. Lady Charon, the woman in charge of keeping stock of items and mercantile goods within the hideaway, Blackthorn, whose blacksmithing skills were sure to arm and protect those to fight against outside forces. Tarja, for tending to the injured in the infirmary. Goots, for being just a friendly giant. Gav, for using his acute senses to procure information about happenings around the world. And Otto, for keeping everyone within the hideaway orderly and on task. Cid's handpicked team of all-stars for ensuring safe haven for the bearers and those alike are too many to count to simply mention all of them. Most of all, he saw within Clive Rossfield immense potential in helping him out with his New World Order, of bearers being treated as equals, with the death of the Mother Crystals being the cornerstone of that initiative. Believing that the Mother Crystals were siphoning ether from the land propagating the Blight, the death of the Mother Crystals, to Cid, meant that there would be no further encroachment of the nasty Blight that had consumed much of the lands. A land in which bears could die on their own terms is what Cid had wanted all along, until Clive entered the picture and realized that Clive's desires had shone brighter than his own, by which bears would not only die on their own terms, but to cultivate a means for bears to live on their own terms.
I suppose it's about time I repaid your faith.
Cid saw the potential in Clive far beyond Clive managed to see his own potential in the early stretches of Final Fantasy XVI's narrative. And it wasn't until Cid became mortally wounded by Ultima at the inner sanctum of Drake's Head that Clive began to realize how Cid had touched his own life and given a burning desire within him to live his life with a means of seeing Cid's fantasies of a world reborn a reality. Smacking sense into Clive when Clive's emotions clouded his judgment, having him better come to terms with Ifrit, the burning inferno of an icon residing in him, and instilling Clive with a rejuvenated sense of purpose are but mere elements of Cid's lasting impact on Clive and his crew. Confident that Clive would be able to see his fantasies become a reality, a fading Cid bestowed upon Clive his iconic powers of Rama, entrusting his new yet promising ally with the tenacious and enduring spirit of Cid the Outlaw to see the world become rebuilt a better one piece at a time.
I can think of none better than you.
Clive, taking on the very name of the outlaw he had come to rely on so much throughout the early chapters of the game, quickly went back to work to reinstate the Hideaway's mission of becoming the force that would topple all the corruption within the empires and usher in the true desire of Cid, a world in which bearers can both live and die on their own terms. Cid is survived by his equally charismatic and brilliant daughter, Mid, a young woman whose passion for engineering left her a desire and belief that her inventions with her father could make the world a better place. Raising her as an outlaw, Cid ensured that she had a good education and a prosperous life, and gave her the space and opportunities to allow her inner genius to shine. This is demonstrated clear as day when she realized her lifelong project of the Enterprise, in which her role in aiding the new Cid and his allies meant that the legacy of her father would extend far beyond his own life. Even after the fall of all the Mother Crystals and Ultima himself, do we see Cid's lasting impact, a world devoid of magic, a world no longer at the threat of an encroaching blight, and a world reborn. The stories as we know them for both Cid and Clive may be over in regards to Final Fantasy XVI's core narrative, but with Yoshi P showing enthusiasm for potential DLC for the game, we may just see even more stories from the cast of Final Fantasy XVI. In an interview with Yoshi P from the YouTube channel, Kakuchopurei, of which is listed in the description for your convenience, Yoshi P was asked what other character we would potentially play outside of Clive in a future DLC or mode. This is what Yoshi P had to say. Personally, I would make Cid playable. He is such an interesting character with his complex life and background story. This is not a business decision, but more of a personal and creative decision to make him playable in a future content update. So while Yoshi P would love to see a potential Cid DLC, we ultimately have no idea whether or not this will come to fruition, but if it were, I think it would be really cool to explore more of Cid's life before establishing his hideaway in the thick of the Blight. Perhaps showing us firsthand how he came to his powers as a dominant, and show the relationships he forged with Benedicta and Barnabas Tharmer, of whom many feel didn't get the screen time they both deserve. It would be an incredible ode to the late Cid in establishing his desire for a world reborn, with us witnessing firsthand how it unraveled. But I want to know from you all in the comments what you would like to see from a potential Cid DLC, and where you'd like the story to take his character. Final Fantasy XVI's Cid is as much a celebration of all the Cids who have come to be in the series past, while confidently debuting one of the most loved and compelling figures in the game. While our time with Cid may have been a bit brief, his impact and presence throughout the adventure was felt far beyond his physical presence in Valisthea, and will undoubtedly be a character we will remember throughout Final Fantasy's long history for time to come.
Brothel.
Really? Doesn't seem very private.
Make sure to watch this video for more insight about future DLC to Final Fantasy XVI, and stay tuned for more Final Fantasy content to come. Want me to take a closer look at another character in Final Fantasy XVI? Let me know in the comments, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.